यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिभर धारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिभर धारी यशोदा नंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदा नंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीरम वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रवचक आचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रवचक आचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णवृंद की नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की गंगा माई की यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की संकीर्तन यज्ञ की ट्रांसजेंडर बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Swadhishnayam pratapan pranaha bahihi cha pratapati असो एवं विराजम परतपन प्रतपन तपति अंतः बहिः पुमान् स्वधिष्ण्यं प्रतपन प्राणो बहिश्च प्रतप्ति असो एवं विराजं प्रतपं तप्ति tapatyantarbahi puman swadishnyam pratapan prano bahishcha pratapati aso evam virajam pratapangs taptyantarbahi puman swadishnyam pratapan prano bahishcha pratapati aso evam virajam pratapangs tapati antarbahi puman Mataji's. Swadishnyam pratapan prano so evam virajam puman. Okay. Swadhishnyam, radiation. Pratapan, by expansion. Pranaha, living energy. Baihi, external. Cha, also. Pratapati, illuminated. Aso, the sun. Evam, in the same way. Virajam, the universal form. Pratapan, by expansion of. Tapati, enlivens. Antaha, internally. Baihi, externally. Puman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The illumination both internally and externally by expanding its radiation. So the sun illuminates both internally and externally by expanding its radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding His universal form, maintains everything in creation, both internally and externally. Purport. The universal form of the Lord, or the impersonal feature of the Lord, known as the Brahma Jyoti, is clearly explained here and compared to the radiation of the sun. The sunshine may expand all over the universe, but the source of the sunshine, namely the sun planet or the deity known as Surya Narayana, is the basis of such radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the basis of impersonal Brahma Jyoti radiation, or the impersonal feature of the Lord. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14:27. So the universal form of the Lord is the secondary imagination of the impersonal form of the Lord. But the primary form of the Lord is Shyama Sundar, with two hands playing on his eternal flute. 75% of the expansive radiation of the Lord is manifested in the spiritual sky, Tripada Vibhuti. And 25% of his personal radiation comprehends the entire expansion of the material universe. This is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita 10.42. Thus, the 75% expansion of his radiation is called his internal energy, whereas the 25% expansion is called the external energy of the Lord. The living entity who are residents of the spiritual as well as the material expansions are his marginal energy, Tatashta Shakti, and they are at liberty to live in either of the energies, external or internal. Those who live within the spiritual expansion of the Lord are called liberated souls, whereas the residents of the external expansions are called the conditioned souls. We can just make an estimate of the number of the residents of the internal expansions in comparison with the number of residents in the external energy, and may easily conclude that the liberated souls are far more numerous than the conditioned souls. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmitamena Tasmai Shri Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Khadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vijakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpataruvescha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namane Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The sun illuminates both internally and externally by expanding its radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality Godhead, by expanding his energy, his universal form, maintains everything in creation, both internally and externally. So it's very interesting here. The analogy is being given of the sun in this relation with the Purusha Shukta confirmed, and one can hear about that quite extensively in the a 13 series lecture of this Arca, the sun, the representation of the Supreme Personality Godhead, or the Supreme Personality Godhead himself, Surya Narayana. So it's very nicely given throughout this Srimad Bhagavatam, many analogies of how Krishna is the sun, or often in some of those lectures, Krishna is the sun of our lives. So here, it is being, Prabhupada is saying here that the universal form of the Lord, or the impersonal feature of the Lord known as Brahma Jyoti, is clearly explained here as compared to the radiation of the sun. Just like the radiation of the sun is impersonal, it's this light. It seems to have particularly no form. It's just like light is in this building right now, but you can't particularly say what the form of light is. It doesn't really take a form whatsoever. But you can understand very easily that light gives us the ability to distinguish and understand form. Right? Where if it was darkness, now you wouldn't be able to distinguish between the walls and the floor if it was very dark. I mean, unless you're standing on it, whatever. You wouldn't be able to see what's up there. You wouldn't be able to see the light and the fans and everything. Everything is more or less one in darkness. Right? So this is the sun. Krishna is like the sun. This is the radiation compared to the radiation of the sun. The sunshine may expand all over the universe, but the source of the sunshine, namely the sun planet or the deity known as Surya Narayana, is the basis of such radiation. Prabhupada makes it very clear. This is not an impersonal realization. This understanding that is being given here, it is not impersonal, that there's behind the energy, there's the energetic. This is to be understood at all times. Therefore, in Prabhupada writes something very nice you can bring up 5:15 in Bhagavad Gita. So, one second, I'll bring it up here also. You got it? Somebody's got that? No? Ty? So this is, it's not 5:15. What is it? 5:8. So whenever, maybe I'm getting it wrong. I think I've got the wrong. Okay, sorry, it's 16. 16. 5:16. What's going on? You got it? Okay. So 5:16. Okay. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Those who have forgotten Krishna must be bewildered, but those who are in Krishna consciousness are not bewildered at all. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Jnana Plavena Jnanagni Sarva Karmani Nahi Jnanena Srisham. Knowledge is always highly esteemed, and what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders unto Krishna. As it is said in the 7th chapter, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanvan Mam Prapadyate. After passing through many births, when one perfectly in knowledge surrenders unto Krishna, or one who attains Krishna consciousness, then everything is revealed to him as everything is revealed by the sun in the daytime. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. For instance, when he ceremoniously thinks himself God, he actually falls into the last snare of nescience. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? Does God become bewildered by nescience? If so, then nescience of Satan is greater than God. Real knowledge can be attained from a person in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide master and under him learn what Krishna consciousness is. For Krishna consciousness will drive away all nescience as the sun drives away darkness. So this here, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go to the last little bit here. Go to the last couple of lines. As they were all individuals in the past. They were all individuals at present. And they will continue to be individuals in the future, even after liberation. At night, we see everything as one in darkness, but in the day, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. So often you'll see Mayavadis, they'll see this Brahma Jyoti, this is the all in all. This is the ultimate realization of Brahman, is this impersonal feature, this radiating light. This is the knowledge aspect. Light is known as knowledge, right? When we say light, it doesn't just refer to some light coming from the sun, but often it's like because light means free of darkness. Darkness, generally we subscribe to ignorance. So when we are endowed with knowledge, as the Bhagavad Gita says here, knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. As the Mayavadis would say, well, everything is one. When we're in knowledge, everything is one. Everything is the same. But actually, that's not true. When there is light, when there's knowledge, we are able to see individuality. We're able to see Prabhupada says here, identity with individuality. In spiritual life is real knowledge. So this is real knowledge, this illumination of light. This is the real knowledge, is to come to this point of understanding Bhagavan, as Prabhupada points out here, that it is not the radiant, that the radiation is the all in all. It's Surya Narayana who is the source of that radiation. That is to be understood. Not that one becomes bewildered by the light and thinks everything that is all in all, that is the substance. Brahman Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithyam. That Brahman is when in the Vaishnav way of looking at things, Vaishnav understanding, then we get, it's true, as I think Guru Maharaj was saying that yesterday. Was it Guru Maharaj that was saying that yesterday, or Mukunda Datta Prabhu? That this Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithyam, that yesterday, yeah. He was saying that, when we have a proper understanding of the Bhagavatam, this is true, but the Mayavadis take it a complete different direction. So this illumination is, Prabhupada says here, it is the imaginary form. It's the second, he actually says here, that similarly, the Supreme Personality of God, Lord Krishna, is the basis of impersonal Brahma Jyoti radiation, or the impersonal feature of the Lord. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. So the universal form of the Lord is secondary imagination of the impersonal form of the Lord. But the primary form of the Lord is Shyamasundar, with two hands, playing on his eternal flute. So just like one can imagine the sun rays to be the complete substance of the sun, which is true in one sense, which is it's the external energy of the sun that is coming. But for the intelligent person, he can understand that actually there's a sun god, there is Surya. And actually the controller of Surya is also Surya Narayana, who is Krishna himself. So similarly, Prabhupada gives that same analogy and connects that, saying, well, just like that, the Surya Narayana is there in who is the controller of the sun, or deity known as Surya Narayana, is the basis of radiation. Similarly, Krishna is the source of the radiation of the Brahma Jyoti, or the impersonal feature of the Lord. And Prabhupada goes on to quote Bhagavad Gita 14:27. So this is only a secondary imagination. Secondary imagination of the kind of questions, what is the first imagination? Because if you say secondary imagination, Prabhupada says here, so the universal form is the secondary imagination. Primary is impersonal Brahman. So Brahma Jyoti is impersonal Brahman, no? So Prabhupada says the universal form of the Lord is the second imagination of the impersonal form. Secondary imagination. So the first imagination is just
Secondary doesn't mean necessarily
that there's a first. Okay. Or it's just that is this a second thing? It's just coming afterwards.
means a lower conception.
Right. Okay. So is the lower conception of the impersonal form of the Lord. But the primary form of the Lord is Shyamasundar with two hands, playing on the eternal flute. So what is Prabhupada implying here? That he's implying, well, when one actually comes to knowledge, then he starts to realize this form of the Lord. This Shyamasundar, when one is illuminated with knowledge, when one is in darkness, then he thinks of this Brahma Jyoti. He cannot see actually. He's completely covered by ignorance, as we were saying yesterday. How can the eyes, which are in themselves material, start to conceive of knowledge, which is also meant to be, mithyam? It's meant to be just not real also. How can the perceiver be unreal and the perceived be unreal also? And Guru Maharaj was saying, well, that it cancels out, and it is actually they're seeing reality as illusion, because it's actually reality, but they're so illusion. There's double illusion going on. That was a little confusing. So here Prabhupada is implying here that when one gets true knowledge, then he sees the primary form of the Lord, who is Shyamasundara with two hands, when one is illuminated with that knowledge. So here we go. 1 second. So Prabhupada says something in this here in regards to this 8.3.10. Let me see here. Srimad Bhagavatam 8.3.10. Okay. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized by pure devotees who act in the transcendental existence of Bhakti Yoga. He is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness and is the master of transcendental wealth. Therefore, I offer my respects unto him. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood only by devotional service. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yas chasmi tattvataha. If one wants to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead in truth, one must take to the activities of devotional service. These activities are called sattva or shuddha sattva. In the material world, activities of goodness are symptomatic of pure Brahmana, appreciated, but the activities of devotional service, Shuddha Sattva. In other words, they are transcendental platform. Only by devotional service can one understand the Supreme. So, Prabhupada goes on here. So, making the point that this knowledge can only be illuminated, or one can only come to this knowledge when one starts the process of bhakti. And therefore we have this verse in the Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churito Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yang Shyama Sundaram Achinta Guna Sarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So you can bring up 538, Brahma Samhita. Who's got the phone? Nali, okay. 538 is Acharyas, past Acharyas. You don't have this Veda, what is this other one? Yeah, anyways. Okay, just go 38. Okay. So I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamasundar, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, who the pure devotees see in their hearts of the hearts with the eye of devotion, tinged with the salve of love. The Shyamasundar form of Krishna is his inconceivable, simultaneously personal and impersonal, self-contradictory form. True devotees see that form in their purified hearts under the influence of devotional trance. What is that verse that comes in the Bhagavad Gita? That with the lamp of knowledge, I'll destroy that ignorance within the hearts of my devotees. What verse is that? 10, 11? 10, 11. So that with the lamp of knowledge, I shall destroy this ignorance within the hearts of my devotees. It's interesting how it says, within the hearts of my devotees, that I shall, with this lamp of knowledge, I shall destroy the ignorance. Somebody can pull that up, 10, 11, and then you can go back to this. Oh wow, this is really annoying, huh? Okay. So to them, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So if you go to the verse before this, So to those who are constantly devoted to me, serving with love, I give them understanding by which they can come to me. No, I thought Jita was on it. No, Jita was. So we see here, to those who are constantly devoted to me, serving me with love. And then so in the next thing, he says that I shall destroy the lamp with the lamp of knowledge. Shining lamp of knowledge, the darkness born of ignorance. They are already devoted, but he shall destroy the darkness born of ignorance. So here, Prabhupada in this, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in this purport says, true devotees see that form in their purified hearts under influence of devotional trance. The form Shyama is not the blue color visible in the mundane world, but is the transcendental variegated in its color, affording eternal bliss, and is not visible to the mortal eye. On the consideration of the trance of Vyasadeva, as in this shloka, Bhakti Yogena Manasi, etc., it will be clear that the form of Sri Krishna in the full personality of Godhead and can only be visible in the hearts of a true devotee, which is the only true seat in the state of trance under influence of devotion. When Krishna manifests himself in Vraja, both the devotees and non-devotees saw him with this very eye, but only the devotees cherished him, eternally present in Vraja as the priceless jewel of their heart. Nowadays also the devotees see him in Vraja, in their hearts, saturated with devotion, although they do not see him with their eyes. The eyes of devotion is nothing but the eye of the pure unalloyed spiritual self of the jiva. The form of Krishna is visible to that eye in proportion to its purification by the practice of devotion. When the devotion of neophyte reaches the stage of bhava bhakti, the pure eye of that devotee is tinged with the salve of love by the grace of Krishna, which enables him to see Krishna face to face. Prabhupada often said that when one becomes realized, actually I was hearing this Prabhupada memories yesterday, and I don't remember who it was with. Might have been with Jai Dvaita Swami. Prabhupada was there, and Prabhupada was explaining that he sees God's face to face. He's seeing God face to face. And then I think Maharaj, he tried to explain it in some way, so to make the other person understand a little bit. Yeah, ultimately he's seeing God because he's seeing the super soul or something like that. And Prabhupada was very, very strict in that. He stopped him and he said, "No, directly I'm seeing. I'm not seeing in some impersonal way or some philosophical way. I'm seeing directly," Prabhupada would say. Why? Because he's on that platform of bhava bhakti. The pure devotee he is completely absorbed. He has those transcendental eyes, as Krishna says to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I shall give you the eyes by which you can see, O Arjuna." So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is making the point that even when Krishna was on the planet, people were not able to see that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the devotees could see, and the devotees can still see in Vrindavan. Not just in Vrindavan, everywhere, as Prabhupada says. Krishna, the meditation is always on Vrindavan, 24 hours a day. He said, you can live in Vrindavan in your mind all the time. He's always living in Vrindavan, actually. The pure devotee always lives in Vrindavan. And that place where there's devotees congregated, where there is descriptions of Bhagavatam going on, where there is chanting of Hare Krishna going on, where there is no hypocrisy, where there is no duplicity, then Krishna is present there also. And wherever there is Krishna, there is Vrindavan. Actually, only Krishna only lives in Vrindavan. Outside of Vrindavan, it's considered that is his expansion. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur makes the point here that the devotees are always seeing Krishna. In his Shyama Sundara form, those devotees, those pure devotees who are dedicated to and utterly surrendered, they're completely surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they're always seeing this Shyama Sundar form of the Lord. What was it? There was this pastime with Srila Prabhupada. He says that in my heart, Shyama Sundar is sitting. There's some pastime like that. Devotees are saying like that's the super soul within your heart. But in my heart, there's Shyama Sundar. So for the pure devotees, he sees Krishna face to face. How can we understand that? You cannot. It's beyond your conception. You can only understand it when you experience it yourself. We can accept though. We accept the words of the pure devotee. And we ourselves can realize in our own Krishna consciousness as we progress how this also over time will become apparent. We're able to see Krishna face to face. We're able to see Krishna in different aspects of our devotional service. How he's acting. May not be face to face yet, but it is there. We're able to see how he's playing a major role in everything that we do. So the phrase "in their hearts" means Krishna is visible in proportion as their hearts are purified by the practice of devotion. The sum and substance of the sloka is that the form of Krishna, who is Shyama Sundara, Nattavara, best dancer, Murlidhara, holder of the flute, and Tribhanga, triple bending, is not a mental concoction, but is transcendental and is visible with the eye of the soul of the devotee under trance. So this is the stage of Bhava Bhakti. This is the stage of complete, pure devotional service where there is not a tinge of material covering on the soul. It is completely pure. It has complete vision of everything. It is like, as Krishna was saying in the Bhagavad Gita, that sorry, I'm just going to find it here again. That when one is enlightened with knowledge by which nations is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything. The soul becomes fully knowledgeable, is full of knowledge. What does this mean? Does this mean he becomes a Supreme Personality of Godhead full of knowledge? No, he means he understands his complete relationship with the complete personality of Godhead. Not an incomplete conception of the personality of Godhead. Not just Brahman realization or Paramatma realization, but Bhagavan. And Bhagavan in the aspect of Shyama Sundar. That Lord who is the Nattabara, the dancer. Muridhara, the player of the flute. And Tribhanga, the bent in the triple bending. This form is realized. Not some impersonal conception. There is no beauty in that. Well, you could say there is some. But Rupa Goswami says it's like a hoofprint of a calf. That is the bliss or pleasure that's derived out of that. Whereas the ocean of devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is much greater. So this impersonal conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this is often, as we've discussed, this imagination. Whereas Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says here, is not a mental concoction. It is real, it is factual. It is transcendental. It is complete. It is the source of all these other aspects. This is to be understood. This is to be completely imbibed. Otherwise, it's just it doesn't make much sense. It doesn't add up. All the philosophy and all this, it doesn't add up. The Srimad Bhagavatam does not add up with the impersonal conception of Krishna. So there's Shyama Sundar with two hands playing his eternal flute. So 75% of the expansion, radiation of the Lord is manifested in the spiritual sky. So that place where Shyama Sundar resides with his internal expansion in the forms of different different forms of Vishnu, this is in the 75%. This is Vaikuntha, a place of no anxiety. So in that place, there is the complete personal conception of the Lord, but then the material as the material world is becoming manifest, then we got these expansions of the Lord in his impersonal aspects. That may be there in the spiritual world also, because he's expanding his energy, but the devotee, because in that Vaikuntha Loka, in that Vaikuntha, in the 75% that's being discussed here, the personalities that are present there are completely they've come to the complete realization of Bhagavan. So they understand even the energy of the Lord, that internal energy that is expanded everywhere, just like it's self-illuminating. They don't take that to be the all in all. They see this personal form of the Lord. So the 75% of his radiation is called his internal energy, whereas the 25% expansion is called the external energy of the Lord. The living entities who are residents of the spiritual as well as the material expansion are his marginal tatashta, and they are at liberty to live in either of the energies, external or internal. Those who live in the spiritual expansion of the Lord are called liberated souls, whereas the residents of the external expansions are called the conditioned souls. We can just make an estimate of the number of the residents of the internal expansion in comparison with the number of residents in the external energy, and may easily conclude that the liberated souls are far more numerous than the conditioned souls. Just as Prabhupada often gave the example of that, it's a minority that is in the jail. Just like you go to the jail, for him, that's his whole life. Everybody in that jail, that's who he sees, especially those who have gone for a whole lifetime. Then it would be foolish for them to consider that this is majority of society. One who is in knowledge understands that this is the temporary situation, at least for most people who go to jail, and then they eventually come out and back into the real world. Similarly, this material world is that basically jail for the conditioned soul to reform his attitude towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the attitude correctional facility. So this Tatashtra Shakti, that is where we fall under. We fall under the marginal potency of the Lord, where we have the choice. This is the independence of the jiva, whether he wants to come to this platform of devotion of seeing Shyama Sundar, or wants to be illusioned by material energy and struggle in his material existence to try to enjoy. So therefore we have that verse. How does it start? That the Mamaivaamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. How does it? What verse is that again? Is that 15? It's not 15, is it? Yeah. I just had it up. Okay, here we go. 15:7. So Krishna says, the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. So we have that choice whether to struggle hard with our 6 senses and our mind, or to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and be under the shelter of His internal energy, not at the mercy of the external energy. So this is the independence of the jiva, that they have that choice, whether to struggle in this existence or to become liberated from this existence. That is completely up to the jiva. That is given completely independence to the jiva. Because that love is not forced, is devotion, means love. And so one has to be anointed with devotion, but one cannot have that unless he himself makes that choice. So that living entity, who is the Tatashtra Shakti, he has to undergo the practice of devotional service to come to the platform of realizing this personal feature of the Lord. Otherwise, it is not possible to understand. Otherwise, it's bewildering. The statements of Bhagavad Gita, the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, you can come to so many different conclusions. But if we study under the Acharya, as we are doing, then it's very easy to come to that conclusion, because we see through his eyes. We're not seeing through our eyes. We see through the eyes of the Acharya. And what does the Acharya see? As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, he sees Shyama Sundar. So when we read this, we are seeing through the eyes of Srila Prabhupada. What better way to see? Just like when you have glasses, you can see clearly. The vision is clear with glasses. Now you cannot see. You take off your glasses, you cannot see. Somebody told me, this one boy that I'm in contact with, he said he had cataracts when he was a young kid. I don't know whether that's a whole lifetime. I guess he still has it. Is that how that works, cataracts? I don't know what that is. But I guess it's just your eyes. It's just your eyes, you become like pretty much blind. Right? This is the growth that covers your eyes. Actually, we can attribute that to the Mayavadis. It covers their eyes to see. But if one can put on the proper lenses, proper glasses, then they can see clearly, very clearly. Very clearly. Although one is conditioned with his eyesight, but with the glasses, the conditioning is removed. And one can see clearly. So that is seeing through the eyes of the Acharyas. That is what it means to be dedicated to the Acharyas. To see completely through their vision. And see how that their vision is completely perfect. Because they're at that level of bhava bhakti, they're at that level of pure devotional service. They're seeing face to face Krishna. So by taking that, then we can also see. That is the purport of the Shastra. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tatau guru. that when one has implicit faith in the Guru and Krishna, then all the imports of the Vedic literatures are revealed to him. So when one takes that vision of the Acharya, when he sees not just reading the books, but the vision that is given to us of going out and distributing books and starting farms and making devotees and Harinam and Prasadam distribution, then we can start to see Shama Sundar. Then we can start to also experience this pure devotional service. We don't want to let it be just some theory of our life. We don't want that. That is not very useful. It's not some theory. It is, all these books here are practical realizations. All these purports here are practical realizations of Srila Prabhupada. So we can read them and understand them and have a proper conception of them, by which, just like the sun illuminates when it rises, it allows us to see everything very clearly. It gives us knowledge. Just like that, by that illuminating knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given us, we can also see clearly what life is, what is death, who is God, who we are, what our position is. We can see these things very clearly, and how to act in that relationship with God, and that the fruits of the love of Godhead. Also, we can see all these things very clearly, or experience them to their utmost extent, to the maximum. So, but one has to be dedicated. One has to surrender. That is the qualification, as Prabhupada says here, and that the liberated souls are far more than the conditioned souls. So we're waiting to join the big Sankirtan. This is small Sankirtan going on here, a very small amount of devotees. But the spiritual world is full of devotees performing Sankirtan, always glorifying the Lord. And everybody's engaged in that, whereas here, not everybody's engaged in that. There's only, in Atlanta, there's the whole world, and then within the whole world, there's Atlanta, and then within Atlanta, there's this small city, this small suburb, and then within that suburb, what do you call the suburbs here? Neighborhood. Within this neighborhood, there's so many houses, and within these houses, there's a few devotees. So there's a few, but this is only in this residence in the external energy, because we're residents in the external energy. We're contaminated. We're envious of Krishna. But we can understand that that actually most souls are engaged in this Sankirtan. Most are. 75%. Only 25%, more or less, are engaged in trying to enjoy, trying to become Krishna, being envious of Krishna. So, with this proper understanding that Prabhupada is giving us through the Bhagavatam, then it's easy to understand this Purusha Shukta confirmed, these prayers. Whereas it seems that the Mayavadis have so many different translations and understandings and confusions that come about by all of this. And then it's the second, the four prayers that come up? Is that later from Brahma? Is that the four prayers that they're centered? Chaturshloki, yeah, a little bit later. So all these prayers become very confusing otherwise. But we're having a proper conception from the get-go, from verse 1, from Bhagavad Gita, from any book that you read of Srila Prabhupada. Just by reading that, you can understand the whole Bhagavatam very clearly, whereas so many jnanis and yogis and spend their whole lifetime trying to study this, but cannot come to any conclusion whatsoever. So we have that opportunity, and we should continue to study these books, imbibe them in our lives, and we'll be able to come to full realization and see Krishna face to face in our lives. Okay, that's all I've got. I'm sorry I wasn't prepared for this. Only found out this morning, so please forgive me for whatever mistakes I've made and things that may not be exactly clear. Please feel free to ask any questions. Okay, Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
So, small but technical point. So, the platform of Bhava Bhakti is lower than Prema Bhakti. So at least when when referring to our Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, we don't say they're on the platform of Bhava Bhakti, we say they're on the platform of Prema Bhakti, which is higher than Bhava. Right? So that's an important point. Then, recently, I came across a quote. This is in regards to a discussion that myself and Krishna Keshav Prabhu were having yesterday about his sun god, they say Surya Narayana, and there's the demigod, the sun. So in the 5th canto, chapter 22, in the introduction, summary, Prabhupada writes, the sun god who controls the affairs of the entire universe, especially in regards to heat, light, seasonal changes and so on, is considered an expansion of Narayan. He represents the 3 Vedas, Rig, Yajur and Sama, and therefore is known as Traimaya, the form of Lord Narayana. Sometimes the sun god is also called Surya Narayan. The sun god has expanded himself in 12 divisions, and thus he controls the 6 seasonal changes and causes winter, summer, rain, and so on. Yogis and karmis following the Varnashram institution who practice Hatha Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, who perform Agnihotra sacrifices, worship Surya Narayana for their own benefit. The demigod Surya is always in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan.
So there is a demigod called Surya and there is Narayana.
Yeah, also Prabhupada uses this word deity of Narayan is found. It seems that demigod deity of Narayana, here in this purport, he uses the word deity of Narayana within the sun.
Yeah.
So it seems that demigod Surya, who is an empowered incarnation.
Demigod Surya is Vivatsam.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, there are 12 Adityas also.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada is referring to that in this purport. I think
among the
Vivaswan
12
must be the source of those 12 Adityas.
Among the 12 Adityas, sun is one.
Huh?
12 Adityas, sun is one.
I don't know. That part I'm not very clear, but it seems that Surya is always worshipping Narayana,
Okay.
and that therefore he's also considered an expansion of Narayana, but in the form of probably as an empowered incarnation, yeah, I mean Shakti Avesh is so many times of Shakti Avesh is there,
Yeah.
So
It's in that set of lecture Guru mentions, I think that there's Surya who's the sun god, and then there's the controlling deity of that is Surya.
yeah. So it seems that the deity of Narayana within the sun planet is the source of actually all the effulgence.
Yeah, but from Surya, that is Vivatswan, from his body also effulgence comes. That's what
Must be. I mean, yeah.
Because the whole planet is, and the people, everybody is
Right.
From there.
Fire.
It's a
Right.
fiery planet.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Jita Girish?
No.
Phone.
Huh?
Could you scroll down to the purport?
Uh,
The very beginning of the
one.
purport.
Okay.
Oh, you have something?
Nothing.
Please.
This is in the 2nd canto of Bhagavatam also Prabhupada writes. After this adjo.
What do you want?
Yes, beginning of the purport, please.
Okay, paragraph.
Beginning of the paragraph or beginning?
Purport. Very beginning of the purport.
Oh.
I think this is a different verse.
Verse 17.
Of the what?
This is terrible.
Which one? From this
Content.
verse?
Hit content.
This-
Yeah, the verse we read. Text 17.
You want the first line?
Yeah, I mean, it would be helpful.
Universal form of the Lord, then personal feature of the Lord, known as Brahma Jyoti.
Yeah.
It's clearly explained here as compared to the radiation of the sun.
Right. So I think this was yesterday, but I think Ramdas Prabhu mentioned, or he asked the question if the Brahma Jyoti was the same as the Virat Rupa that came up yesterday, yeah?
Virat Rupa is.
I remember
Brahma
that.
has something.
No, he mentioned it today in the class.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought, Ram Prabhu, do you remember what you asked?
I was asking Vishnu question the other day.
Oh, that was day before. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because the kind of a final organization that when Brahma dies, it is given that I thought it is given detail that the soul goes into the Brahma Jyoti, come back out when the creation starts happening in. But I don't.
What is your question?
Oh, anyways, sorry. Anyways, it's just this point that the Brahma Jyoti is equal to the universal form, the Virat Rupa. Am I understanding
Equal?
that correctly?
No.
Doesn't say that.
The universal form of the Lord or the
Impersonal feature.
So either or. It's
It's either or.
Because the other form that you're speaking about, that particularly is like the planets, and you've seen the
Which one?
you're saying what was the word you used? I forget.
Virat
Virat
Rupa.
Rupa.
Universal form.
Yeah, that's also like there as all the different planets, and you see in the Bhagavad Gita that's like shown with that. Oh wait, maybe not in the Bhagavad Gita, but it's like
Yeah, I mean,
all
Krishna shows
planets
that.
to the-
Krishna does show
yeah.
that to Arjuna.
So I understood that to be the Virat Rupa, and then you've got Brahma Jyoti, which is just the light itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Yeah.
So
This
that's it.
is worded a little, I don't know, maybe it's just my ignorance, but it makes it seem like it's the universal form
No,
of
it's
the
two
Lord or
different
the
things,
impersonal
right?
feature.
No,
of the
it's
The
two
universal
different
form
things.
or the
It's two different things.
Yeah, obviously. But anyways, I'm a little
I
confused.
see where you're coming from.
anything
He
else?
can drink the milk or she can drink the milk. They're two personalities.
Yes.
He or she can drink the milk. Doesn't mean he or she is the same person.
Yeah, but he, comma, or she, comma, that would refer to,
No, not necessarily.
I guess.
It's seen in context.
Okay, was it Chandra Prabhu?
Prabhu, I like that analogy you're making about the Maya bodies, how they're covered by ignorance, and then they give a different interpretation on the Bhagavatam. I think Acarya Prabhu was mentioning that he had found many versions of the Bhagavad Gita, and he had even been to India a few times. But, I mean, yeah, the ultimate thing is until you come across the pure devotee who has, the proper vision, none of this is going to be able, it's not going to get revealed to you. To come in contact with a pure devotee.
Yeah. So I only hope. Okay. Anyone else have a question? Yes. Tej Pandey.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's the difference between someone who's on Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti? What's the difference?
Chandra Prabhu, I forget what was the exact difference? I have no idea.
Baba is a ray compared to a ray of prema, love of God. So in Baba one gets the glimpse of Krishna, and one is able to see Krishna actually. But still in Baba Bhakti there is still some chance that one may fall back into the material world. Whereas in Prema Bhakti, one has achieved full love of God. So the comparison is like compared to the sun that's rising. So when the sun is rising, first you see the sun rays. So the sun rays come, and so you get a glimpse of the sun's full glory, the light of it. But when the sun completely, but there's still some little darkness may remain here and there. But when the sun has fully, arisen in the sky, then there is no darkness anymore. So Prema Bhakti and Bhava Bhakti are compared like that. Bhava is specifically compared to a ray of Prema. There's so many other technical
What was
differences.
the last anartha that was there in that one? Do you remember that?
Oh, I have to look up Madhurya Kadambini. Vishwanath Chakravarti.
There's a shloka of Bhagavad Abhyartha Kalatvam.
Yeah, that's the stage of Bhava Bhakti.
Shantir Abhyartha Kalatvam.
Yeah.
This is actually Bhava.
I forgot, I have to pull up that chart.
Ramdas Prabhu.
I don't think he has a question.
You have a question now?
Oh, he does.
Yes. I heard that the
Supreme Lord is occupying the position of the Sun God?
Yeah.
No.
I've heard Brahma, but I haven't heard
No.
about the Sun God. No.
No.
I don't think that's true. I don't know where that's from, but. So I found this chart here.
Oh, if you pull up that chart, okay.
All anantas, the eradication is almost complete.
Yeah,
So whereas prema,
it's complete.
complete, all the eradication is complete. And then there's prakata, bhauma lila, which is all anantas, the eradication is absolute.
Yeah, anyways, don't get into that.
Any Matajis have any question? Oh, Tata, you have a question? Right, what's the question?
So Surya Narayan is considered to be a Shaktavish avatar?
What I understand is
Narayana is not
it's
Satya.
the deity of Vishnu.
Suryanarayana is Lord of
Narayana is Narayana.
Oh, Surya. You're talking about Surya. Surya
Yes.
Surya himself.
Surya is
Aditya.
Surya is a representation, it represents
So,
Narayana.
Satya Vishnu.
But he represents Narayana because, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, his son is my right eye. And so-
For that fact, a spiritual master is also like that.
Yeah.
But because he's invested with the potency of the Supreme Lord, and is his representative. Anybody who's invested with the potency and represents the Supreme Lord perfectly is
It's like so many times we have in the Bhagavatam, the king is a representative, seen as God and God.
that's a little different though.
It's the same as Surya being, he's like the controller of the sun god, and then there's the king himself. The king is also considered a representation, like as people see him as almost.
Unless somebody is pure, we don't recognize, or they have a particular post given by Krishna.
So that's the same with like Parshuram too?
Parshuram is.
Yeah.
So he's not directly...
No, it's Jiva. Any living entity who's been invested with the potency of the Supreme Lord and is acting on his behalf on a mission that has been given by the Supreme Lord can be regarded as Shakti-Avish.
Anything else?
Krishna Keshav Prabhu was going to say something.
Okay. Anything else from
So regarding the king, it depends whether he's representing or not representing. That's what I'm trying to say.
What I understood was just that Prabhupada said the citizens are meant to see like that.
No, they're meant to see,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
also have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, why that point came because when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Chankazi, he said, although Chankazi is not qualified,
Yeah.
whatever it is, he's a Malachan. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him as representative of God.
Representative.
Even while conversing, he conveys that message to him that you are representative of
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Even Sanatana Goswami says you are representative of God. Then Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Labir Khas and Sabar Malik.
That's what I understood from.
Even though they may be Malachas or Yavanas, because God has ordained him to keep in that position to rule. So he is representative of God. He may not be qualified, that is another thing, but he is representative of God.
I tell you, because with King Vena, I forget if exactly that's there, but maybe something along those lines also that's there. Because King Vena was.
Also, he was not qualified and Brahmanas had to kill him.
Yeah. Still, they had to see him as.
Yeah. Only thing I was saying is that because Prabhupada is also considered Shakti-Avish, still this, we should also see.
Yeah, we see the difference. It's not.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
like just
what
like
I'm
our spiritual master, you got that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that comes Tatapi Amara Guru Chaitanya Das. Yes. What is it?
Yadyapi
Yeah.
Amar Guru
Yasyapi Amara Guru Chaitanya Tatapi Janiyami
Tanhara.
Tanhara Prakash. That I know my spiritual master is a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I see him as a manifestation of the Lord. So we're not, we don't see the spiritual
It's
masters.
not even see, it says I know.
Yeah.
Tatapi Janiyami. I am aware.
But still,
I am aware. It's more like a reality.
so there's different Acharya Mam Vijani and Krishna says that one should see me as the Acharya. But we understand is the supreme servitor of Godhead, not the supreme personality of Godhead, the spiritual master. Okay, anything else?
It's called as, spiritual master is called as Savior, Sevak Bhagavan.
Sevak Bhagavan, servitor.
And Krishna is the Savior Bhagavan.
Want to be served. Okay, all right. Srimad Bhagavatam.